Alec, considering that there was another version of this film made, how did you go about creating the character of Doc for yourself?
I think that when you have a great story, and I'm a huge fan of Thompson's books, it's amazing how much of it takes care of itself. You know, and I think that when you do a remake, the key is to just not even really think about what went before. I think if you're remaking a film that was okay, and you really think you're going to improve enormously on a casting level on the film, that's a different story. That's not the case here. Here you have a guy who was a legend playing this part, which was emblematic of the roles that he owned as an actor. And I think what you do is you just ignore that. You're never going to have any hope of having people forget McQueen. So you go in and you just try to tell a great story again to a new generation of moviegoers who might not go back and see that film. Certainly not on the big screen. They'd have that kind of an opportunity. And also, I think 20 years later, we have the opportunity to dial up the velocity of the film a little bit, because cameras and cinema now are so different from what they were 20 years ago. When we were doing the film, when we were thinking about the film, we had a list of obviously a lot of very well-known, very valuable actresses that we want to get. And Kim was one of them. And Larry Gordon, who's the producer, I said to him, could we at least have her come in and speak to her about the role? And I would never do that unless I thought she were right, you know, for the part. I'm not nepotistic at all in that way, I mean, because I want to make a good movie. And I thought she was perfect. I thought she was perfect because the woman needed to be tough, and Kim is tough. I mean, on a good way. She's got a lot of very strong person. And the more Kim and I talked about it, the more playing this kind of person appealed to her. You know, an interesting thing that happened was Walter Hill, who wrote the original screenplay, is a friend of mine. And he gave us these beautiful character notes that he wrote for the two characters. They're very brief, just 2 pages of statements that he felt were truths about these two people and where they came from. And I read these things about, Kim read those notes that Walter wrote, and I think that was what really put her over the edge and made her want to do the story, because she saw this portrait of this woman and she thought, well, I could do that, I could be that woman for 2 hours on screen. I think it's both. I think it alternates back and forth between, it's easier because it's somebody I know, and this work is deeply personal at times, and it helps to be around people you know. I think, you know, often you do a movie, and by the end of the movie, you're ready to make the movie, to start all over again. But it's also tough because you're with somebody who as much as I want the movie to go well for everybody I work with all the time, I'm always very for the other guy or the actress or whoever. I have to admit, I'm probably even a little bit more so for my wife, so I want it to be a good experience for her.
Did you have room on this one to improvise, or was it pretty much off the script?
There was a little bit of that. I think there's always stuff like that now in films. There are very few screenplays, I think, that are written where there are very few writers who they are hammering nails in, and they're really building these structures which are very difficult to take apart. They're that structured. I mean, a lot of movies today are very high concept, and the dialogue is almost. I must say, most movies I see, the first element that I am taken aback by, or I find is anemic in a script, is the dialogue. And unless you have somebody like Mamet or William Goldman, or somebody who are these legendary writers who happen to work in film. David Rabe is another really good writer now in films. And there are some other good ones. David Koepp, who I'm working with now on The Shadow, is a great writer of dialogue. He's got a real ear. There's a real music to the words, and all of them are in character. But in a movie like this, which the dialogue is not what drives the story, the action is what drives the story. Yeah, you play around with it quite a bit. Not right now, no. I used to, that was something I wanted to do before I became an actor. And I have to admit, I had a tremendous hangover from that. from all the years that was really what I thought I wanted to do when I was in college. And now I'm doing this. And now, after doing this for almost 15 years, you know, since I was doing television and things, I feel like I look back over my shoulder now and I think, my God, I've been doing this for 15 years. So I think I'll be do it for a little while longer and see what happens. And then after that, I don't know what I would do. That's my wife and I, that's our favorite topic now. What are we going to do next?